Hi, good morning. Honestly, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're listening to this. I am Pastor Scott Harper with Hope of the Generations Church and Be in Health, and welcome to our podcast. And so, some things I want to talk about today. Uh, this is June, and June is known for a lot of different things, depending on where you are in social media, where the involvements is, where you look at on different things. You'll see different months for different things. A couple things that happened this month. We have Flag Day this month. We have Father's Day coming up this month, but June is Men's Mental Health Month. And I don't know if you know this. Uh, Men's Mental Health Month, that's a lot of M's to say. So the triple M's. Men's Mental Health Month began in 1994. It was 3 years after I graduated high school. I didn't know June was Men's Mental Health Month until a few years ago. Why did that not come up in any of our information? Why didn't we know about this? I mean, now you may be watching this, listening to this. That's fine across the board because this is both video and audio. So depending on the platform, you may be sitting there going, "Man, I've always known it." Dude, this is something I've always known across the board. But why isn't anyone talking about it? And over the last few years, it's starting to be more prevalent. You have different groups and different organizations and really, truly different voices that are starting to step up and say, this is Men's Mental Health Month to help other men rise above the stuff that gets us down, rise above the things that really just try to destroy us. And we're not talking people, we're just talking circumstances and stuff. And the voices, not to sound crazy, but the voices in our head, as us in military and law enforcement, well, as my military friends and us in law enforcement would say, the demons in our head that talk constantly. And if you're around Being Health and Hope of the Generations Church a lot, we talk about this. This is what we talk about, but we don't dive into it because here's the really sad statistics, if you will. I found this really cool. It's not a cool article. It's not a cool article. It's a bad article, but it was a great place of understanding. When it says that you're looking at 77% of men have suffered with symptoms of negative mental health, but we're talking about less than 13% actually talk about it. Why? I mean, if you're anything like me, I grew up in a mentality that men were always supposed to be strong and manly men. And, you're supposed to never show weakness. And if you showed emotions, it was a negative connotation. And we didn't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about things. And come on, guys, we're guys. And I know there's some ladies watching this and listening to this, which is fine. And you're probably going to send this to your husbands or your boyfriends or your friends. And that's great. But we don't talk about it. And we were taught not to talk about it. I mean, we are great at stifling and shoving down and internalizing our pain, our hurt, the depressions we go through, the different things like that. Why? Because we were taught growing up that we can't show that. We're always supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be strong for the people around us. There's a movie reference, and I know probably people get sick and tired of me doing movie reference, and I'm not going to tell you the name of the movie because it's probably not the greatest movie, and I wouldn't promote it. But um, uh, Harrison Ford was in it, and he's the captain, and he's supposed to be the captain. And for a moment, he kind of loses his stuff and goes out in the trees, and there's colorful expletives, and the Cubert language goes underneath, and he's kind of a thing. And the lady he's working, trying to help and save because they're shipwrecked, and she's like, "I don't. What's wrong with that?" He goes, "You can't do that. I don't need you. You're supposed to be the strong captain." He goes, I'm like, "You're right. I'm the strong captain." He goes, "But no one wants to hear that. Oh, we're going to die," kind of a thing. So, but that's how we are. We internalize it and we think because of how we've been trained that we're always supposed to be strong. We're always supposed to be putting out the best foot. And in all honesty, guys, I hate to tell you this, and I've told this to my boys. It is a double standard. It really is. But we have to accept that in a lot of ways. But you have to find those right people. There are things about my life growing up in law enforcement. My dad was a cop in LA. He was Navy. I'm a Navy brat. Grew up in LA. Grew up in the late 70s. I was born in 73, so I really grew up in LA in the 80s. I moved out on my own when I was 16 and had to grow up really quick. Growing up with a cop and a Navy guy as a dad, your bed had to have the quarter bounce off of it. Granted, in the 80s I had a water bed, so it didn't matter. But there were strict rules of how clean the house was and stuff like that, and we were never allowed to show emotion. We couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. And I don't remember very many times ever seeing my father cry, which to me, it made me feel I had to always have a protection around me to never let any of those emotions out. My kids now, they call me, they say I cry on, all the time now. And I don't know if it's the position of being a pastor or involving people's lives, but I am very blessed that somewhere along the way, God healed me of that extreme cold, hard-hearted, just everything has to be locked away. Now, granted, I'm an ugly crier. If I start crying, my kids turn away because they'll start crying, and then it's just a big cry fest and mess. But we have to get past the stigma and the shame and even the social expectations of what they expect men to be. There's this huge push right now in the world for toxic masculinity. I can't even say that right. Because I was born and raised with a Southern mentality. You open the door for ladies, you say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And you close the door and you open the door for the cars and that's kind of thing. And we've been attacked for that. So we start pulling back. And you look at the society we live in and how all of a sudden now the good, strong men we've been pushed aside a lot of times. And you see weak men. I won't get into politics, but you have weak men and we have a weak country. There you go. I hit politics. At some point, us men, we have to rise back up, not as dictators, not as putting people under our thumb, but being the spiritual leaders God called us to be. I mean, us men, I'll get back to statistics for a little bit. I'll get off my soapbox, but since this is our podcast and, I'm the guy with the mic, I can pretty much say what I want to say today. Here's the statistics, okay? You're looking at the biggest cause of men's mental health issues in our lives. This was 2023. 32% were work pressure. Do you have work pressures going on in your life that just feel you bogged down? It may be, I don't know, maybe you're in the wrong seat. Maybe you're doing the wrong job. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you need to go start your own business. I don't know. That's between you and God. Financial issues, that plagues every single one of us at one layer or another. No matter where you are on the financial income level, it plagues every one of us. And the third one, 23% of people, is their health. How do you feel? Physically, what's going on? Do you take your pulse? Are you watching your blood pressure? Are you getting your steps in? I just started because of this pressure. Okay, so I could honestly say that in my life, I've got different layers of all three of these. For me, I started a nutrition program and trying to lose some weight and get healthier and get back to being able to be to where I can play with my kids and run up and down my steps. And I told someone this morning because they said, hey, you're losing a bunch of weight. I said, I know. I said, I've got a little daughter who's 7 years old, and at some point, some boy's going to knock on the door and want to take her on a date, and I want to make sure he knows that I'm man enough to fight him off or still bench press him. One of the two. That's honest truth of it. I've got some older daughters that are, they got people talking to their lives, and I got to do the same thing. And so but we're worried about our health, because if we are worrying about our health because we didn't provide enough financial needs for our family, and what happens if we get sick? What happens if we go down? Is our family taken care of? And then all the pressures and all the fears and all of that just piles onto our head. And next thing you know, we're dealing with depression. We're dealing with suicidal thoughts because we're thinking, if I'm not here, my life insurance policy will take care of my kids. And it's not the way we should be thinking. I mean, it's sometimes what happens and some thoughts that come to our head, but that's not beneficial. We've been taught way too many years from a young age that we have to be tough and unemotional. I got news for you. Jesus wept so hard that it was like drops of blood. For what? Not what he was going through, but for his people. And it was for what he was about to endeavor. But he was full of compassion, full of love and stuff like that. And we have to be that as well, still being strong, but just as soft as we need to be. Now, you may be listening, you may be watching this, and you're like, man, I'm already there. Or your wives and your boyfriends, or whatever that looks like, maybe go, man, you're doing really great. But how many of them really understand the battle that's going on in our head? I started to say earlier, and I'm looping back around, and my wife knows a lot of the things that I went through in law enforcement, things that I've seen, the things I've been involved with, whether it was law enforcement or being a first responder with the fire department, and the things that sometimes wake me up in the middle of the night. And she knows bits and pieces of those, but she doesn't know the gory details because it won't benefit her. But she understands some of those days when I'm hurting. But some of those other things, you may need to find somebody to talk to. Because here's the thing, 40% of people have never spoken. I think I said earlier, 13% never speak at all. 40% don't speak to anyone at all about like a pastor or, I don't want to say a psychologist, but a mental health counselor kind of thing. 40% never speak about that to them. Now, 13% don't say anything at all because we feel too embarrassed. There's a negative stigma about what we're going through. You need to find somebody to talk to. I have a really great group of guys. There's a couple of different things I will mention. There's a buddy of mine. He wrote a book called Fire Team, and where he's got a group of guys that he goes to, that's their battle buddies. They encourage one another. They grow each other up. I've got the same group of guys. There's 5 of us that we when we're struggling on those days, that's that text thread that comes out and says, hey man, I need some help. I need some prayer. We need to be that for more people. We need to be that group of individuals that when somebody's hurting, whether you're a guy or a girl, I mean, what male, female, married, single, whatever that is, mom, dad, whatever it is, you need to find those people that you can confide to actually talk about what's going on, not in self-pity, not in whining, not in, I'm not complaining or being critical, but say, this is really the struggle my heart is in. I need to just get some of this stuff out. And you find those like-minded people that will build you up. See, our namesake, 3 John verse 2, has so many things we could wrap up into this. This is, beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So we got body, soul, and spirit in one verse. But that prosper, I want you to understand, it's not just financial. It's being successful in absolutely everything. Successful in your job, your career, successful in being a dad, being a mom, being a husband, being a wife, being a kid. I mean, I would have loved to have learned how to be a successful son earlier in life, not when I'm in my 50s. But I'm glad I'm learning now because now I get to teach someone else. But beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers, your thinking, your mental processing, all of that in play. So that way we're successful in everything that we are doing, that we're successful in reading our word, we're successful in keeping the house going, we're successful in our careers, how to be a pastor, how to be an audio guy, how to be whatever it is you do out there. Successful in everything and be in health, which means there's a body, soul, and spirit healthiness that we need to have in how our heart feels, our body, our mind, how we think, how we process thought. All of that comes into play. Now, we can teach things about how things go backwards. A merry heart is good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones in Proverbs 17:22. That merry heart doeth good like a cure, which means when we're down and depressed and we've allowed the work pressures and the financial pressures and the things about bosses and things about bills and the things about our health, and if we're failing as fathers or we're failing as husbands or we're failing as whatever it is, that sadness and that depression starts to pull us down. And what happens is our spirit gets broken because we can't stand up and we're not following the word on when he says how marvelous we are and created in Psalms. And that broken spirit starts drying up the bones and we start becoming frail and weak, and our testosterone levels drop because we're not stepping up and all those things. And when really we need to find joy in our life. And you may be looking going, dude, you don't understand what I've been through. You don't understand all the struggles I have. You don't understand any of this. And I probably don't. I legit probably do not know everything that you have struggled with and gone through. God does. I can empathize. That's the right word. I can empathize with you. But unless I've walked in your shoes, I really don't know. But I can tell you somewhere along the way, God is absolutely your biggest fan, even in the midst of struggles and failures. And here's the thing, we don't put that into our head because we think we have to always have it together and we have to have all the right words and all the right phrases and do it all correctly. And we think the moment we make a mistake, we've completely failed in everything. We've failed in this, we failed in that. And those pressures and those thoughts, they start pushing back and start shoving us farther and farther, deeper and deeper into ourselves. Or the thoughts say, you don't know what I've seen. You don't know what I've had to do. You don't understand. I was in the military and I was deployed, and you don't understand, and no one around me understands. I understand it's hard. My brother in love, Joseph, he was Army. We talk back and forth a lot. Now I'm about to get emotional. We kind of have an argument on who's each other's hero at this point. There comes a point that you have to put your faith and your trust in God and allow him to bring somebody into your life that you can share your heart with, that you can talk about the things you've struggled with, and not the details, the gory details, not a badge of courage. This is what I've done, but this is what I'm going through. How do I rise above it? How do I get above this thing? There are those people. You may be listening to this. You may be watching this, depending on if it's video or just listening to the podcast. What do I do? Give us a call. Reach out to someone. Because I don't want to see the statistics of how many men lose their life in suicide because they don't have anyone to reach out to. There's a group of military and first responder guys that I support and I follow up with. And I got one of their wristbands on. It says, "Don't let the hard days win." And it's a reminder that there are going to be hard days, but we can't let them win. We've got to get back into the word. We've got to get those people in our lives that will share our heart, because help carry our burden. to talk, to say, this is the day I'm struggling. I'm having a hard day. The voices are louder than it needs to be, and I'm really having a rough time. What do I need to do about that? And it's like, why don't you just come and sit and have some coffee with me? I know at our church, there's a bunch of guys that if you were to call up and say, I just need some chance to talk, or you hit the chat, or you're emailing in, I'm telling you what, if you were to email in, this is what I'm dealing with, we are going to pray for you. We're going to bring it to the Lord and say, Father, this is my brother. He needs some help. And maybe that's what you need to do, or at least give you an option that you can. We'll put the local email either in the lower thirds for info@beinghealth.com, or we'll put it in the talk and just say, hey, men's mental health prayer, or please forward this to Pastor Scott. And if it comes to me, I'm going to pray for it. And if I need to, if there's that many of you that are emailing in, this is what I'm struggling, I'm going to give it to some of my buddies and say, we need to pray for these people. We need to pray for our brothers and our sisters. This is what we need to do, because that's what we're here for. There was something that always reminded me when Joshua was starting to rise up, when he was starting to step into his areas. Moses made a comment to him. He said, Joshua, I want you to understand, be strong and be of good courage. Now, that didn't mean that he had to put aside all of his emotions and everything else, but men, we've known we've had to rise above those things to take care of the people around us, but not to get weary in well-doing, not to fall under it, not to be belittled underneath it, because the Lord thy God is always with us. He's going to be by our side the entire time. Even when we feel absolutely alone, when we don't think anyone else is around us, I know God is right there with me. Now, sometimes I forget. I'm human. I understand. Sometimes I legit forget that God is just kind of right here on the other side of the veil I can't see. And Jeremiah 33 says, those who call out to God. There are days. We were talking last night, and I've talked a few other times. A couple weeks ago, I went into the sanctuary. I curled up on the ground. I legit curled up on the floor, had music blaring in the sanctuary, and I curled up on the floor and said, Lord, I don't know how to do this. I am completely lost without you. I cannot do this on my own. And at that moment, I kind of heard a chuckle in the back of my head. And he was like, I'm glad. Like, what does that mean? I'm like, come on, Lord, that's not what I wanted to hear. I want to hear you're doing good, and you just keep going, which is good to hear. God goes, I'm really glad you finally understand you can't do this on your own. Now I can step up and help you. You're going to let me do it for you. You're going to let me fight your battles for you. This month is Men's Mental Health Month. Don't let your mental health, don't let what the enemy is trying to destroy in you, whether as a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter, an employee, whatever. Don't let what the enemy is doing to drag you under. Now, I know the majority of this podcast, this little time that we're talking, or I guess I'm talking, is more directed towards our men. It's because of the season we're in. I always say this phrase wrong. And I at some point, I'm going to have to actually put the phrase on a piece of paper so I can remember it. And I need to remember it, because it says when, the whole cycle of difficult times create strong men create easy times create weak men create strong times, or difficult times. I think I actually got it right. We're at that point that when I think about the transition in the circle of where we've lived our lives, we're going to have men that are going to have to stand up to be godly. As the angel of the Lord told Gideon, rise up, you mighty man of valor. Before he ever did anything, he said, "Rise up, you mighty man of valor." He knew what he was capable of. And I know there are men out there listening to this or watching this. Excuse me. You've probably been beat down. You've probably been because of circumstances and people's voices and everything else, probably downtrodden. That's a good King James word. But I'm going to encourage you, rise up, mighty man of valor. Be a good, strong covering for your family. Be the spiritual leader. Even if you're working out of passivity and you're trying to come out of it and you're trying to walk that out, give me 3 minutes of reading the scripture to your families. Give me 3 minutes of prayer time. Start somewhere to start the momentum. It's moving. Rise up, mighty men of valor. Be strong and of good courage. For thou must go with this people unto the land which the Lord has sworn of. This is Deuteronomy 31, their fathers given, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. This is the land we now have to prepare for our children to inherit. Rise up, mighty men of valor. Be strong and courageous. For the Lord thy God is going to walk with you on every step. He's going to be there. No matter what, we're going to shove aside all the statistics now for a second. My prayer and my hope for you in everything. Now, I understand I'm still learning. I may be a pastor. I may be the head of a church and a ministry outside of God. You know what I mean? But I'm still learning. I'm still growing up. I'm still being matured, and God is still growing me up and seeing me become an adult, kind of a thing in the word. But there's a chance and a time, and now is that opportunity. We're supposed to rise up to be the spiritual covering of our homes, to be the spiritual leaders, not just in our homes, but also in our communities. Not harsh and dictatorial and mean, but loving and compassionate. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, all of those things that love is. Why? To raise up the next generation to be strong men and women for God, that know their identity, know who God is, know what their place is, know what they can do, know scripture to be able to battle these things, to truly be a generation of overcomers. Rise up, mighty men of valor. There's a song, I don't remember who does it all of a sudden, but it talks about that no matter where you've been through, no matter what you've done, God loves you. And that is so true. And even us taking our places, King David, as much as awesome as he was, he had some sin stuff going on in his life. Gideon still had some sin stuff, and he was a mighty warrior. Joshua had to grow up into some things. All these mighty men of valor, mighty warriors that God's called to, had to grow up through things. I'm still growing up through things, but we have to start somewhere. So I'm going to challenge you. Seriously, legit. And since it's men's mental health, I'm kind of talking to the guys right now. Ladies, don't take offense to that. If the men become strong, so does the families. So just bear with me a little bit. Guys, whether this thing hits on your social platform on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, I don't even know if we do Twitter anymore or whatever it's called, TikTok, or if it's on our podcast on Spotify. If you want prayer, you don't have to give me the details. You don't have to do any of that. Reach out to us. Somebody will pray with you. It may not be me. It may not be Nate sitting behind the camera over there, but somebody, one of us, will take the time to pray for you. If you email us, if you message us, if you Facebook, whatever it is, somebody is going to stop for that moment and pray for you, that you will be able to be encouraged, that you'll have a strength and a wisdom to be able to make good decisions, to be the strong leader in your home, to be a proper servant to your wife and to your kids and to your community. We'll take the time to do it. Find those people that you can talk with, that are trusted, that are safe, that know a little bit about what you're going through, because like-minded people understand things a little differently. Reach out to someone. Don't let the hard days win. Find someone to reach out. I'm gonna plug this really quick and understand, and info@beinghealth.com is our email address. You can shoot that email. It comes to our main, I almost called it dispatch, and that's some old history coming out. Our team, and they'll get it to me, and I'll get it to who I feel needs to pray for you. Info@beinghealth.com, Facebook, Instagram, message throughout that link, and we will get it and we will pray. October the 18th and 19th, later on this year, we are having our first and ever men's conference called Momentum. We're trying to get registration, should be coming up soon. When it opens up, I want to pack out the house, like legit pack out the house. I've got my buddy Aaron Ward from Ohio coming down to talk about his fire team and to talk about his kind of journey in military and how God saved his life. We've got some gentlemen from a few different world wars and some other conflicts. Actually, if I just said multiple world wars, one of them might hurt me because I don't remember how old he is. And I'm a little scared of him. He's, they're going to talk about what it was like to be a man back in the day, where we are now in our society, and what we can do to be strong men of God again. We're going to talk about mighty men of valor. We're going to talk about the power of prayer. We're going to talk about the power of prayer with our families. We're going to talk about the power of the Holy Spirit in our lives. We're going to discuss some really gritty things about what we go through. I encourage all of you, come to this men's meeting. It's not just going to be a pep rally. We're going to have to work through some stuff, and there's going to be a time of ministry to where you get to share really what your struggle is, and other men will come along together, anywhere from 18 to, we'll say 180. That way we cover the run. We'll have a chance to lay hands on you and pray, to support you, to help grow you up, to give you an understanding you're not alone in this. I think that's all I want to talk about right this second. I know we'll be doing a few more of these, but I just want to pray before we get out of here, because I appreciate you hanging out with me this long, because I know trying to get out. And the one thing I want to say about Momentum, while I've still got you, we're only doing it for 2 days. It's a Friday afternoon, all day Friday. We start at noon on that Friday. Is it the 18th? The 18th up until that night, all day Saturday. We're going to close around 6 o'clock, and we're going to have a cookout and a fire out at Fire Pit out at the retreat for anyone that wants to stay over for church on Sunday. Just a chance to hang out and chat and talk, and maybe do some acoustic worship and just have a time with us and God. And so I know time is difficult, because us guys, we can't take a whole week off. It's hard to take a week off with our families, but this is 2 days. Can you give me a couple days just to get away? So I want to pray. And I appreciate the time you've spent out of your busy schedules, and sometimes not just busy, but our activated schedules, to be able to listen and hang out with me today. And I'd love to hear your feedback. And so I just want to pray before we get out of here today. And Father, thank you so much for this opportunity to have the opportunity and means to share our heart with not just the people who are sitting in front of us, and not just the people who at our church and our tribe, but to have technology in a way that we can get our voices in our face and be right face to face with somebody, no matter where they are, no matter what they're going through. This is a great opportunity and a great time to live in. I mean, Paul had to write letters and send them off, and how long that took to get there. I mean, look at our mail system today. It took forever. So, Father, I am grateful that we have this opportunity to be instant, in season and out. And Father, now I'm asking that this distance, that it's just a video camera, it's just this, we're right here with whoever it is, that you put this video in front of exactly who needs it at the moment they need it most. whether it was shared and sent or forwarded, whatever it is. But Father, I pray that this finds those that need it. That if this time spent together helps one person, one young man, one older gentleman, one father, one son, one husband, find a way of going, you know what? I've got to be better. I've got to find a way of thinking through this in a different perspective and rise above these things. Then it was worth my time. But I know you're going to touch more people. Father, thank you for today. Thank you that you've helped me along in my journey enough that I can impart what I've learned to someone else. That I know how important it is to have that team around to share our hearts with, that will undergird, that sometimes will hold us up and sometimes honestly pick us up when we fall flat on our face, because that happens too. Father, I pray for each person listening to this or watching. I pray that you meet them in every area that they need, whether it be financially, in health, in how they think. Maybe they're dealing with PTSD and they're struggling with mental health and depression. And Father, I just ask you to reach out to them. And I command the amygdala in that PTSD where it swells too much. I command that amygdala to come back into balance in Jesus' name, to the normal size. I command the serotonin and dopamine levels to be normalized, to battle off depressions, and I command every one of those fears to leave. And I speak creative miracles and healings now to everyone who's listening and watching. And I call out those mighty men of valor to help establish generations of overcomers. Father, I thank you for those listening and watching, and I ask you to bless them. In Jesus' name, amen. Check out beinhealth.com. All the things we offer on our website, the For My Life program. If you've got a prayer request, shoot it into info@beinhealth.com, and we'll pray for it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Love you so much, and we'll see you soon. Later.